First Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired. What's up, Holmes?
And for people who don't know, Hey Ash, What You Playing is a video series that you started with your family,
Hmm?
basically, about video games. And I think it's taken off. I've seen it on TV before, on the TV. That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's
Yeah,
so great.
it's it's fun. Yeah, wa- I want to keep doing it into the foreseeable future just because it's stupidly easy and really fun and an excuse to hang out with all of my friends and family that I want to hang out with.
That's what the Adventure Time guy says. He's like, it's so easy. I just write the jokes and then they make them. And I'm like, I could never write jokes that good. It's incredible. And I feel the same way about your show. You make it look so easy. But I've tried to make funny videos like that, and I don't think they're. I think your show's great. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank
It's
you.
awesome. It's still on Game Trailers, going strong.
Hmm. Yep.
That's
If you go to
awesome.
Game Trailers, we're there, or you can just go straight to heyash.com, which is our site for it.
So that's one thing you do, and then you're also writing Borderlands 2 for Gearbox. Is that right?
Yeah, I finished writing Borderlands 2 now, so I'm basically just trying to look busy and not get fired. But up to a couple months ago, yeah, that was my job, and it was stupidly fun.
Wow. How long did you work on that for?
Since June of 2010 up until really just a couple months ago, I was there pretty early in about midway through pre-production. I came on, and there were only a couple sort of things that they had in stone that they wanted to get done with the story, and then the creative director Paul Helquist and I sort of worked around that and came up with individual missions and the plot and the beats, and then wrote the script. Did a bunch of drafts of that, and then worked on side quests, battle dialogue. Yeah,
Whoa, how many pages did you think you wrote?
150. It's not very big. It's like a movie size script, and the side quests are like 200 or something like that. So it's kind of like I wrote a 3-hour movie altogether. But that's not counting battle dialogue and stuff. But that's just people saying variations of grenade, grenade out for like thousands and thousands of lines.
Wow, you've already written the equivalent of a 3-hour movie. That's amazing. Is it
Yeah, I actually hadn't thought about it that way until just now.
yeah, many people want to do that and never get to. What do you think afforded you this opportunity to work for Gearbox? And I didn't realize honestly that you wrote that much of the
Hmm?
game. Because you'd worked on Duke Nukem Forever a little bit. Is that right?
I worked on it in that I wrote like about 20 lines that I was like, hey, you should use these. And like most of them were like making fun of Duke Nukem and being really self-deprecating. Like when he shrunk, like I don't know what he says in the game now, but like I was like, he should make a joke about like Freudian stuff. And they were like, we're just gonna go ahead and not use any of that because that's really stupid. I was like, touche. Um, but I think they ended up using like one of my lines. I think when you activate a Hollow Duke and he says like these weird bastardized versions of Duke Nukem lines, those are my lines, or a couple of them are anyway. But I really did practically zero work on Duke Nukem. But it was mainly I think they hired me on because I met Mikey Newman, who's I think his title is Chief Creative Officer at Gearbox. I met him at GDC one time and we just hit it off, and he really liked Hey Ash and convinced a bunch of other people to watch Hey Ash and like it. And yeah, I guess they just didn't want somebody with any experience. I don't know why that was their goal, but they were like, let's give our multi-million-dollar franchise to the guy who makes 90-second long poop jokes and see how that works out. And
And that's really so Borderlands 2, I in the post I wrote you were one of the writers, but it sounds like that's really your story now. That's
I,
incredible.
I am the lead writer. I also worked, Mikey Newman, again, the guy who basically got me the job, also did some work with some of his characters from the first game, like Tannis and Scooter, and did a little bit of work on the antagonist. But I would say the bulk of it is me.
So how did that feel to because Borderlands 1 was a breakout hit. It sold a lot more than they expected. So expectations for the sequel are understandably high. So to be handed this thing and for them to give you all of this faith to basically follow up Nirvana's Nevermind with a video game script, that must have been freaking hard as hell. I don't envy you in a way. But how was that for you? Yeah, tell us all about it.
It was it was hard. No, it was actually super fun. It was there were challenges inherent in it because Borderlands One, at least narratively, is in an interesting position because a lot of people play the first Borderlands, a lot of people like the first Borderlands, and narratively there are things about Borderlands I think they enjoyed, but there's also complaints about the ending.
So, do you want me to like show you around or
The
anything?
ending of Borderlands sucked.
Okay, I mean, I agree, but
Who
it's
fault?
what?
Who fault?
That's not a sentence. Did you mean like whose fault was it?
No. Yes.
I mean, a lot of people were involved in the decision. It's probably not fair to blame just one.
Give me a fucking name!
Randy Pitchford, I guess.
I'm gonna punch him in the balls!
Thanks for visiting, and don't ever come back.
Okay.
Is that crushed velvet and leather piping there, Randy?
I know, right? It's awesome.
The ending of Borderlands sucks! You're welcome, Internet.
There were certain arguments that, a lot of the story took place in text rather than in voice. And so it was sort of figuring out, okay, what are people actually expecting narratively from a sequel? Do they like just having the text? Did they like the sort of minimalist approach that story took? How funny can it be? How not funny can it be? Because if you look at the main Borderlands game, it's actually, like, for the most part, it's not that funny. Not because, like, the jokes don't work, because there just aren't any. Like, there are characters like Scooter and Tannis and maybe one or two other characters, Crazy Earl, who are actually, like, comedically written, and a lot of the other characters are just straight men. Whereas the DLCs for Borderlands, which are generally considered, at least to a lot of reviewers and stuff, narratively superior to the main game, are way funnier. Like, there's, like, a Scooby-Doo side mission in the zombie DLC, and there's, an argument about ice cream that these two soldiers have that are supposed to be, like, really scary badass soldiers in the Secret Army of General Knox. So it was sort of trying to figure out what is the tone of Borderlands? We know it can, but, like, how funny? Is it Saints Row 3 funny? Can we hit people with dildos? Or is it, like, closer to Gears of War? Does it have to be more badass and serious most of the time? And so it was sort of trying to find your footing with taking hints from what had already existed. It wasn't like I came in and they're like, haha, we all know exactly what Borderlands is and just do this. It was sort of, you still had to sort of find your footing just because there's so much more story now. Like, the size of the script I wrote is about 5 to 6 times or more bigger than the script for the first game. So it's basically just trying to find tone and
That's awesome. Almost like a reboot. Sounds like narratively it's kind of taking remnants of what Borderlands was, but it wasn't fully formed at that point, and really building a foundation and a house on top of that. That's awesome. I can't wait to play it. What can you tell me about what happens in that game, storyline wise? What kind of hints can you give me? You wrote that. Wow, I can't believe you wrote that thing. That's so great. Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, it takes place 5 years after the first Borderlands. It's got a bunch of characters from the first game, but it's also sort of written in such a way that if you haven't played the first game, you can go into it clean, essentially, and still enjoy it, because the characters you play have just now arrived on the planet of Pandora, where Borderlands takes place. And it's basically just this big quest to find and kill this villain, Handsome Jack. And that was part of the attempt to sort of give a lot of focus to the narrative, because the first game didn't really have an antagonist. Like, you had this driving goal of the vault, but you didn't have somebody who was, like, trying to beat you to it, or if there was, you might not have known who it was, and it wasn't super clear. So Paul and I really early on wanted to have our own, like, Andrew Ryan or whatever, somebody who can goad you all the time and really kind of piss you off and make you want to shoot him in the face while hopefully being kind of amusing. I don't know if I've succeeded at that and all, but that was the attempt, at least. So
yeah, that's an awesome goal. That's exciting. So how did you balance comedy versus depth of narrative and that sort of thing? Because in my experience, comedy games sadly don't do as well as just grit your teeth, be a jerk games.
The goal for the main plot was have it be a little bit more serious, sort of have it be kind of tonally. My touchstone was always Firefly, because Firefly is actually, there's a lot of humor in Firefly, but it's not like super goofy over the top. It's characters just being funny with one another naturally and being cool people. And so when things get serious, the humor that you've used to develop them actually makes it a lot more affecting when serious bad stuff happens. So that was sort of the touchstone for the main game. So there is hopefully humor there, but it's not like over the top, silly, crazy, funny stuff. It'll hopefully make you laugh, but not to the point of like, oh, it just feels like nothing is taking itself seriously or whatever. The side quests, it was just go apeshit. It doesn't matter. Like, anything, no matter how funny or stupid or whatever, could go into a side quest if we thought it was cool and if somebody built it. Like, we have an entire side quest that's just about Top Gun references, where almost every line of dialogue in the entire quest is a line from Top Gun, just slightly perverted. And we just did that just cause. Like, there was no like group meeting about like, oh, what do we want our game to hit? Well, there's a market for people like Top Gun. Like, we were just like, no, fuck it. Like, this guy Ben Gettleman just really liked Top Gun, so he asked if I would be okay writing a Top Gun quest. I was like, fucking, that's all I've ever wanted to do in my life. So yeah, so that's in there now.
Wow, have you been practicing selling me on this game?
I've just done it a lot.
Yeah, you're so good at it.
Sorry.
I'm excited to see what you can do and how well you're doing it. Because Borderlands, the first game, you know, I wanted to really grasp it, but what I felt from it was a lot of potential.
Hmm.
And to have you want to capitalize on that potential by both giving me a charming world of likable characters, 'cause that's what I take from Firefly. It's not really about comedy; it's about how likable the characters are and being invested in what they do and what they mean as characters, but also being willing to throw in. I guess the easiest way to put it is Adult Swim type comedy, which I
Hmm.
also love, and mix those. That's exactly what I think should be popular for a video game.